You know, there's a saying out there, has been for probably 14, 15 years, and it's called drill, baby, drill. John McCain, running for president, said, we're going to drill, baby, drill U.S. oil and gas wells to make the United States energy independent. It's my full belief, after 41 years in the oil and gas industry, no one in the White House really wants to be energy independent. They really don't. They can't afford to. If you had countries like the UAE and Kuwait and other OPEC countries, Saudi Arabia, if they all figured out that we could produce enough oil and gas inside the United States and stop buying oil from other countries, what kind of economic chaos would that create? Who are they going to sell their oil to? We're the number one oil consumer, 21 million barrels a day. If we were able to supply the equivalent of 21 million barrels a day in this country and stop buying it from OPEC, Saudi Arabia, Iraq and Iran would have to start supplying India and China, but you would have an excess of 5 to 10 million barrels a day. What would that do to the financial infrastructure of countries like Saudi Arabia, who need about $110 to $125 a barrel for their fiscal responsibility and economic budget for their country to survive? It'd be mass chaos across the planet for many countries. Now, when I say that, I want to talk about the U.S. oil and gas industry, how the reaction is this morning when the announcement there is a potential peace agreement between the United States and Iran in the war that started over 90 days ago. And what we want to talk about is the drill, don't drill, baby, is really the mantra. I said this in the previous videos. I said, look, drill, baby, drill is a lie. It doesn't work. We're one of the only countries in the world where we're run by private oil companies. The government doesn't drill oil wells here in the U.S. They don't control a private sector oil and gas exploration. Private companies with shareholders and partners and investors, we own it. We control it, just like in real estate or any other business. So as a result, when somebody says, you need to go drill, baby, drill, but I sure hope oil prices collapse. I want oil prices to collapse. I'm putting policies in place. I'm negotiating even wars to get oil super cheap because the whole world needs cheap oil for their economies to work. Well, if I'm being told that what I do for a living requires a lot cheaper price than I have, and that price I'm going to get paid looks like it's in a downward position in terms of future forecasted value, I'm going to work less, I'm going to drill less, I'm going to turn my wells on slower, I'm going to slow down what I'm doing because the actual fact is I'll drill myself into poverty or bankruptcy. So drill, baby, drill, it's a nice mantra. It has never fit. You can offer us federal leases, state leases, tell us where we can drill. But we as independent oil and gas companies are going to drill the very best wells in the very best areas of the United States that we believe gets the greatest return for our companies, our shareholders, and our investors. So when I say drill, don't drill, baby, that's exactly why you didn't see hardly any drilling rigs at all activated over the last 90 to 120 days. We had no idea how the price would last. We knew what the support was going to be from the White House, which is not supportive of higher oil prices. In fact, I believe that's why there's a 60-day agreement. The desperation by President Trump and the White House and many other countries to get oil below $80 a barrel, the desperation has been so great, they'll take any kind of peace agreement, and I'm not disrespecting what they've decided to do. I don't like war either. But what they've agreed to is a far cry from what they said they wanted 60, 90 days ago. So what does that tell you? Oil supply and oil prices are the most critical economic element in today's global economy. And so what we know is when you tell us drill, baby, drill, what you're saying is drill, baby, try to survive if you can. We don't do that. We're smart businessmen, and that's what we do. U.S. oil and gas exploration companies today, midstream pipeline companies today, mineral rights owners today are saying, you know, what we have in the ground has been there for 100 million years. We will drill it, we'll produce it, we'll sell it. We think it's the right price at the right time from the right geographical and geological areas within the continental United States. Drill, don't drill, baby is the mantra that I see in the U.S. industry. Now, don't get me wrong. We have to make a living. We've got to please our shareholders. We got bankers to make happy. But there's a difference between being stuck in second gear and throttling down to fifth or sixth gear running at full speed. We saw this back in the Russian war with Ukraine, where we saw oil prices skyrocket to $129 a barrel. Why was that so critical? Because it was a major global leader in terms of Russia attacking another country, causing disruption in supply that was not going to last a month or two. It was going to be more of a permanent change in the sourcing of energy like LNG, natural gas to Europe, Asia, and global crude oil supply. War is still going on 5 years deep. So the world and the economy and the commodity markets reacted to what could be a very long-term war, which it has been. The Straits of Hormuz in Iran, from the way the military activity went place, there was no question that the Iranian government regime was going to be neutralized. No one really understood the Straits of Hormuz and what that was going to do to affect global supply. Now everybody knows about it. So drill, don't drill, baby, is really the mantra of U.S. oil and gas companies today. We will drill better wells, try to keep our prices low. We'll satisfy our balance sheet. We'll satisfy our investors and shareholders. We will drill, don't drill, baby, because what we know is there's no reward. There's no financial upside to any of us to drill wells that we believe don't benefit our company or our shareholders first and foremost. So this whole drill, baby, drill, it's a lie. It's a mantra that doesn't apply. What really they should say is, please drill, baby, drill, and we're willing to pay you a fair market value. To me, as somebody with 41 years experience, you have to have prices somewhere between $75 and $95 a barrel, and that is a fair price. So I leave you with this thought. If you knew that you had to have food every day, and you looked to the farmers in this country and said, I want you to go plant, baby, plant, but I want you to lose money 4 out of 5 years. Eventually, the mules, the tractors, the diesel, the fertilizer, the farmers, those that deliver the crops, the transport, are all going to say, there is another business we should be in, but we cannot live 1 out of 5 years on profit. We can't live on marginal returns. There's other ways to make a living and other things to do. But you as a consumer, you need that food to live every single day. And if anything happened in the last 120 days with the Iranian war, every country around the globe that was a net importer of fossil fuels in terms of LNG, oil, and refined products just realized if you choke the chicken, if you starve the farmer, you equally starve just like they do. I believe today there's a real problem. And the problem is we have a slingshot effect about to take place over the next 36 to 60 months. I believe the deprivation of investment capital to the oil and gas industry across the globe has derailed about $2 trillion over the last 15 years. And the sensitivity of what happened in the Straits of Hormuz highlighted the fact that we are about 60 to 90 days from the point of sale at a wellhead to a consumer consuming that barrel. 60 days to run the entire planet based on fossil fuel. I think the president knew that. I think all of his advisors knew that. All the heads of state of all these other countries knew that. And they said, whatever it takes, you must open up the Strait of Hormuz to allow the passage of crude oil and cargo out of that particular water pathway. Absent doing that is cataclysmic economic negativity to many countries who otherwise could not find energy to supply their countries. So I just want you to know when they say drill, baby, drill, for us in the industry, it's drill, don't drill, baby. We'll still get $70, $80 a barrel, but we will not waste precious, valuable reserves, precious assets that we'll waste by giving it away for less than what we're fairly due, which is a fair market price, not manipulated by government regulation and policy. Thanks for listening.